Greetings from Australia. We've had a big weekend. Mardi Gras weekend is always huge in Sydney and other places. But this year, Australia hosted World Pride for the first time in the Southern Hemisphere. Oh, bless. Yeah. And our Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, in the Australian vernacular, he's Albo. Good one. What's Albo up to? You know, it's typical Australian irreverence for people of power and influence. So Albo marched in the Mardi Gras parade. And when an interviewer said to him, "You are the first sitting Prime Minister to march in Mardi Gras," and he said, "Yes, but this is my 35th Mardi Gras. 35 years he's been coming to Mardi Gras. Is there something we didn't quite know about Albo? I wonder why his marriage didn't work." Isn't that fascinating? I loved it. Awesome. And while we were celebrating all that, some ridiculous politician in the US thought, let's make the AR-15 the national weapon. The one that's used for mass shootings, that one. Well, maybe it should happen. Maybe that is what it's about. Maybe monuments to mass shooters are next. What on earth is going on, America? Well, let's have a look. So we've got to look at March because, of course, I'm a day ahead and it's already the end of February here. So we'll have our monthly forecast. There's so much going on. Rupert Murdoch, put my hand up. He was born Australian and then he became an American citizen so he could destroy America full time as a citizen of that country. And his testimony has been revealed. And it's really interesting. This is a guy who's never been questioned about anything ever, right? And his answers, you know, you knew that the election was a bona fide election, didn't you? You knew it was fine, yes. You could have stopped your people going on and saying it was not fine and that it was stolen, couldn't you? Yes, but I didn't. Huh. And then he went on to say, you got to love this, it's not about blue and red, it's about green. Hilarious, Rupert, meaning if he makes money, he doesn't care if the country goes to the dogs. What can you say? Words fail me. Rare event. Okay. Now, let's launch in here. I'll do 3 cards for each week and see how it looks. Let's hope March is full of indictments. Particularly Georgia. We're all waiting with bated breath. Don't write to me about the 4-person going on every channel. I think she's finally learned to shut up. The legal people keep reassuring us that no, whatever she said isn't illegal. It doesn't totally jeopardize a trial. But it was stupid. But as I've said so often, there's no cure for stupid. So we're stuck with it. Okay, moving along, Lena. Week 1 of March. I was going to say February. Week 1 of March. I'm going to put them face down first. Week 2, March. Week 2, March. Oh my goodness. What are the cards going to say about March? This is week 3. And I might just be able to squeeze these on at the end. I'll slide them across when their moment comes. Week 4. Okay, let's dive in here. Week 1. Can you see those? Not really. After all these years, I've never got my act together. Week 1 sort of starts with a bit of a whimper. Out in the cold. Now, I gather it's still cold in America, so I'm a bit worried this might be literal, right? So people are out in the cold, but there's more to this card. They're going past a church, but they don't see the light. Now, I could bore you to death for 6 hours on why I think people are leaving the conventional churches, and it's a long time since I've been a practicing Christian. But I do remember Exodus and thou shalt not murder, thou shalt not kill is a cardinal sin, all of that, right? You know, but anyway, I digress. They're walking past and not looking in at the light. So there's something about, I think each and everyone needs to find their own light source. So this can be literal. It might be power cuts. It might be, you know, power grid seizures or something. But it's also got a more symbolic meaning, which is search for the light, be the light. Okay. People won't be happy with what they're offered. Now, we could start with the folk from East Palestine who won't be happy with what's happening and not happening, regardless of Pete Buttigieg's best intentions. The infrastructure's been gutted, which is why the infrastructure bill was so important. But the agencies to prevent these things have absolutely been torn apart, underfunded. People who are hostile to environmental regulation put in charge of them. It's disgusting. But let's hope the focus on Ohio has ripple effects, because of course that wasn't the only derailment. I doubt it was the only derailment that week. What about all the other contraventions of things? People aren't happy. And I don't see this altogether as a bad card. People have to be unhappy in order to be outraged enough to get the energy to actually demand more of their politicians on the ground. This is a time for the blue dots in the red seas to say, we told you this would happen. What are you going to do about it? So particularly in the red states, but infrastructure, of course, is critical across the blue states as well, God knows. Okay, but I think that's my vibe. People are not happy with what they're being offered to deal with their pain and their panic and their ongoing worry about all sorts of things. This is bigger than a train derailment, but it's symbolic of bigger things. Walking away, I think this is a case of pick your battles, right? I don't think it's time. I'm getting all biblical today. I don't think it's time for turn the other cheek and all that. I think this is engage with what you can change. Ask yourself often, what can I do to make things better? Engage with that, but walk away from the battles you can't win. But also, this is going away on your own terms. So I think this is advice to take time out. And it doesn't matter what your age and stage of life. It doesn't matter what your socioeconomic position. There's always a way to make time to make yourself a better person. We get ground down, whether it's juggling work and kids or the stress of not having a job or caring for aging parents or children with disabilities, whatever the scenario, time to take a bit of time out to fill the cups. The cups are here, meaning emotion, and they're up. So this is someone choosing to walk away. Okay, so week 1, we could have some cold related issues, basically. Not surprising, tail end of winter is always volatile. Okay, now week 2, what have we got? Week 2, Wonder who that is. Okay. Week 2 is going to have some degree of confusion. That's not surprising either, is it? We're living in a gaslit world, not just America. In the bigger picture, people are being gaslit about down is up is down, confusing choices to have to make. This is why it pays to take some time out regularly to clear away the confusion. But my general feeling is this is middle of the road. Republicans are now very confused. What is their hideous convention called? CPAC, whatever it is, the one I mean, where the Republicans go and pat each other on the back and exchange notes on their AR-15s. I think middle of the road Republicans are very uncomfortable. They're looking at the Yeti or DeSantis. And I mean, are you really more afraid of drag queens reading a story to your children than you are of people with AR-15s? No wonder people are confused. They're having to make these decisions. It's absurd, absolutely absurd. So this is the craziness that is everyday America. Queen of Cups, a woman who captures the emotion. Week 2 of March, it's a woman who captures the emotion and the heart of the country. Praises that it could be Fani Willis. I'd love to think so, but it's not the Queen of Swords or something. So it could be someone else. It could be an artist or a musician or a famous actor or something. But it's a woman who has the lid on her own emotions here with the Queen, but she's very good with giving other people advice. So it's someone, I don't know, Susan Sarandon or someone, or the next gen on from there. Something like that, but a woman's going to play a significant role because we're talking nationally. So this has to be big enough that we all notice, okay? And then the Sun. Thanks to her and what she symbolizes, people who are very confused can actually cope with what's coming next, because the sun can be quite merciless. If you haven't got shade, the sun is a thing, right? And symbolically, this is showing more things that need to be uncovered. This could be a female prosecutor in the stable of Jack Smith. Could be someone showing the light. So this, I think, is a big deal, and it's a big deal emotionally for people. I'll put those out of the way and now move to week 3. Okay. Ready for the reveal of week 3. Oh, now we're talking. Now, the legal system. I'm sure most of you have been following the big strokes of what's happening. I mean, Glenn Kirshner has helped us all out, but there's been a lot of other legal pundits who break down what is happening. This is a legal breakthrough in week 3. Piercing the Crown. I could sit here for 2 hours and only barely touch on the legal cases this could be about. There are so many scandals, so little time. What can you say, really? I'll see if I can fish a bit more and get an intuitive on that, but it's a big legal thing. Decisions to be made about who to ally yourself with. So I think this is operating on different levels. As always, the cards operate on different levels. So this could be going back. Remember the confused Republicans? This could be, Paul Ryan came out only yesterday or today or something and said, I'm not going to CPAC if the Yeti is going to be the candidate. So he's put it out there, and I think we're going to see a few more say that, because they have to say it now. Who are they going to choose? Who are they going to back? Who are they going to invest in for 2024? Right? They have to now. And I was going to say, who are they going to get into bed with? But that's a bad choice of words. Oh, sorry, something weird's happening on my computer. Oh, there we are. So this would be breaking into the Marjorie Trader Green factory, who's going onto her side, who's just going to churn out this militant nonsense into the twilight, or are they going to go for the known fascist in the form of DeSantis? Their choices are pretty, aren't they? Love to be them. Or are they going to back the ancient Yeti? Or what are they going to do? What are they going to do? Nikki Haley, I've always thought she wants to be president, but could well end up being VP to any of these, right? But they're not going to vote en masse for her. So they're having to decide about their allegiances and alliances. Not going to be a comfortable space. And now, week 4. Week 4. Okay. Oh, I'm seeing wands. I like wands. So, wands are fire, wands are energy, wands are direct. Now, fire can warm the heart and cook the food, or fire can destroy. We also know this, but we're getting big wands energy here. And I love the Queen of Wands. I rather fancy myself a bit as a Queen of Wands, I have to say. Okay, if someone's direct, doesn't mince words. Okay, compassionate, largely doesn't suffer fools gladly. See, it's my profile, So this Queen of Wands energy, I don't think it's a particular person so much this time as the energy of the Wands is speaking up and speaking freely. The other thing I like about this Queen, the black cat, and it hints that even though she's a very practical person and this energy is very practical, the black cat is a hint at the spiritual, right? And speaking of the spiritual, here comes the moon. So week 4 is going to be mixed. I think there'll be very direct news and I think positive news, long overdue positive news. Dare to hope, dare to pray, dare to dream. Could it be? Could it be an indictment or 20? Okay, it could be. But then the moon comes along again and it's fuzzy and fudging here. But I think because these two are so positive, in the 4th week of March, there could be some lunar energy at play. The astrologers would be much better than I am to say, is there something about, I don't know if it's an eclipse, but this card actually depicts an eclipse, and an eclipse is a portal. So if it's not a genuine eclipse, it's something major with the moon. So the astrologers, can you please let me know, last week of March, what is this lunar energy about? I'd love to know. Now, let's go global for March before I finish here. Move away from the shores of America for a while. I don't know if you've been following, but Putin has been making moves towards annexing Belarus and possibly Moldova. Definitely Belarus. Now, I'm sure there are some Russian supporters in Belarus. However, there are a lot of people who are not. And not surprisingly, it's an intergenerational thing. So for young people who are part of global youth culture, whether they were young Ukrainians or young Belarusians, whatever, and I didn't know, but I've just found out, and this thrills my old activist heart. there's a whole partisan movement, informal movement in Belarus. And just yesterday, they shot down secretly an Iranian drone and a major Russian aircraft, like the pride of the Russian air fleet. Wow. And I've also heard through other quarters, but first-hand accounts, young people with high-tech skills have been talking to each other in all these countries around Ukraine, and they've been tipping off the Ukrainian army to the position of Russian forces and equipment and stuff at great personal risk to themselves. They have been doing that, and they've been doing it for a year. So more power to those who have the courage to do this stuff. Bless them. So let's go globally. I think it's a given we have to be prepared for all sorts. Climate change is now well entrenched. So every country, whether it's Australia, New Zealand, USA, Canada, Nigeria, South Africa, everywhere has to be prepared for earthquakes, volcanoes, fires, floods. So on a personal level and on a community level, really make sure you're organised and ready, that you have a first aid kit, that you have a good battery backup. Really think about what you need for a crisis, because there's going to be more and more. Okay, now let's have a look at the entire world in 5 minutes. Okay, what stands out globally for March, apart from the anniversary of this horrible, unnecessary, vicious war because of one man's madness? What? Okay, let's see. Come on down. Interesting. I really mixed those cards and gave them a good shuffle, but very similar energy coming out globally as with the US. Yeah, right. So this is a time of inner strength being needed by everyone. And I'm sure most of the people who watch this channel care about other people, whether you're watching it in whichever country. But the world, everyone needs to draw on their inner strength now, because basically what's happening with governments, and I agree with Bernie Sanders, America has already moved from a democracy to an oligarchy. So, you know, but they're not alone. It's Australian politics, everything else. As long as you have these lobbyists who can pay huge amounts of money, not have influence. Lobbying used to mean influence. Now it means buying votes, right? So everyone has to call on their inner strength. This is really important. I'm getting a bit of a UK vibe here. Those of you who watch the program I do every Saturday night at 7 p.m. on Hogarth's channel with Hogarth and Lady G, the shelves of the supermarkets are really strained in the UK because Brexit is now really hitting home. And one of their ministers said famously during the week, because all sorts of vegetables, including tomatoes, avocados, lettuce, stuff wasn't available, basic stuff, let them eat turnips. But this is more to the point. I think this is now, it's turned up twice. This is about sources of energy. So one of the things Putin would have thought was easy for him to do was he supplies a lot of energy to the NATO countries, and he thought they were so energy dependent they would buckle, and they didn't. And in fact, it's had the opposite effect. They're rapidly moving towards green energy. Okay, so there will be cold related issues, which is energy related issues, which is also ruled by Pluto, which stirs up this stuff. So March will be full of those things. Again, people have to decide, am I for green energy or not? And what does that mean? What does that mean in my life? It's all very well to say go and get solar panels, but if you're a renter, you can't. If you're on a low income, you can't afford it. If you're on a middle income, it's not really affordable. These things have to be made more affordable. But I think this is a way of, there's this real crunch time in March. Real crunch time is what I come back to. You'll have to defend yourself against the madness, people everywhere in the world, in your own country, because unfortunately, MAGA flu, you could call it, infected so many countries, you know, Canada, Australia, everywhere. We've got our mini MAGAs, you know, there's simply not as many of them, but the same hard, right, ugly, racist stuff is everywhere. So you're going to have to defend the high ground of not making an enemy of people who don't look like you, pet, you know. Moving right along. This has to be dealt with. So you have to be up for it, which is why building your strength is important, because you will have to defend yourself. Women, now she's turned up twice, the Queen of Cups. This incarnation of the card is female energy here. This could be mothers in Russia and possibly Ukraine. There might be some reaching across the divide. I'm wondering. Right. But with this, which when I'm reading for the world, this is not just two people doing it tough. This is, on the record, France. I think France is overdue in an awful way. France is very nuclear dependent. They've failed to update the equipment. By and large, it's really hard to decommission reactors. Oh, we might hear about a nuclear accident. I'm not seeing nuclear war in this stuff, but it could be water levels rising or something that impacts on the nuclear, and it could be France. It could be anywhere. I'm not a brilliant astrocartographer or whatever the people are who specialize in different regions, but I did get a flash of France, I have to say. Okay, so guys, look after yourselves, look after people near to you, be kind. It comes back 100-fold. So you guys take care. I'll be in touch, and stay safe in March. All the best.